Shocks. Tercel. You gotta compress the springs. That's what these are for. You can get these, a set of these at Harbor Freight for 12 bucks, but I recommend you have a third one. A lot safer and easier to do it with 3 of them. Going to be replacing them with KYBs 363037. That's a new one. And they come with a little kit here with the cap and nut. You can see how the seals are broke on these, and you can see how oil had leaked out. See it darker. That means the shock, they're bad. All the oil's leaked out of them. The way you can tell is when you're pushing on the fender of the car. On new shocks, you can't hardly move the fender. Just it moves a couple of times for a few inches, and it gets pretty solid. But on these, you can get it bouncing. This is a car that's had new shocks put on it recently. Oh, I'm recording this. That's normal shock. Car doesn't keep bouncing. Alright, a good shock. You take some force to push it down, and it comes right back out. Put my whole body onto it. A little bit of muscle in the legs. That would be a good shock. And this is what you call a bad one. Doesn't come back out. Okay, I put 3 clamps on. Pull that plug off. And loosen up that nut before I'm just going to get it started. Okay, I rattled that nut just a little loose, just to crack it. Don't take it all the way off, whatever you do, because you haven't tightened these down yet. I took a 7/8. Now we tighten down these springs. A little bit at a time. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this off. It's a little different than the ones I'm used to seeing. The side of that has a slot in it. It's supposed to line, and this one's kind of got misaligned a little bit. Keeps it from spinning. I can take the spring out. Now we got to get this nut off of here. I put a piece of steel in here that I had lying around. See how thick that thing is. About 1 inch thick. Hold it in the vise so I can put a wrench on this. That nut off. Pull the shock out. Like it's got water in there. Looks like water. I'm not sure what happens to these shocks when they get damaged like that while they're inside the strut cartridge. take this out, dump out the water or whatever's in there. The shock was missing the rubber boot. It's supposed to have a rubber boot inside. So we're gonna, luckily I got an extra one laying around we can put in there. This style of top, I haven't seen this type before where the bearing is sealed. Usually the bearing is not sealed. So, and you can see down inside there it's not sealed. Seems to be working alright. Time to put the shock in. I put a teaspoon of oil down there at the bottom. Recommend using the new stuff they send, designed for this particular shock and this cartridge. Sure, it's pretty tight. I don't want it to come off. And before we forget, put this thing on. In order to get this on, I'm going to have to tighten up the spring a little bit.
More support comes from our future listeners and from
I like to make a mark so I know where the slot is going.
patients seeking a new family doctor or specialist. The choice of osteopathic physicians, including
Pretty much centers on this right here.
nose and throat doctor, emphasis on a small group.
And also make a mark on the shaft so I can see where that lines up. Okay, I got this on, lined up with my mark. I'm going to put this on top. Use the nut they provided. Tighten that up a little bit. Okay, I have my mark lined up. Hopefully it'll stay there while I loosen up the spring. Still looks good.
Thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon. We have some music of medicine as conducted by Klaus Ten
And since this rubber bumper is about an inch thick, there's no way that it can get up in here, so I put a vice grip on there. Might mar up the surface a little bit, but keep that turning while I take down that top bolt. That's it. Just put a new shock on this one. You gotta push kind of hard to get it on. Go on this end. Don't have to push so hard, it bounces pretty easy. This side, it resists. This side, just kind of you get a flow going. It's probably not a real bad shock, but I'm going to replace it. I like to get the tire up in the air, so I run it up the ramps, put up some blocks, and put my jack on it. And I'll pull the ramp out from underneath there so I can work with the tire off.